Everybody who cooks or bakes has their special item that they just can't do without in the kitchen, whether it's a special flour, their special knives, special set of pots or a special pan, whether it's herbs or spices, or just a simple blender or food processor. Today, I want to share with you some of the items that I simply cannot live without in my kitchen. Okay, so firstly I want to start with my herbs and spices, and we get our herbs and spices from a local company, and you will see the name of that company right on the front of these buckets. We get a lot of herbs and spices from her, and the ones we get from her most are basil and parsley, just because I simply cannot run my kitchen without basil and parsley, and of course fresh rosemary. Some of the other herbs that I just can't live without are fresh thyme, fresh sage, and of course my special peppers, whether they are Scotch bonnets or habaneros or bird's eye peppers. I must always have peppers in my kitchen because everything we cook with is done with some little bit of spice. I just want to step over just a minute and pick up one other very essential item in my kitchen that I need in my kitchen, and that's alcohol. Anybody who works with me knows that almost everything I bake or cook has a little bit of alcohol in it. Even some of my drinks. I won't tell you which ones, but I think you can almost guess. Get close to Christmas, and that red drink that we all have, it usually has a little bit of alcohol in it. Another item would be lemons, my special lemons. Those who frequent Lady Sarah's would know we make fresh lemonade from all sorts of fruits, herbs, spices. As a matter of fact, we do a basil lemonade, we do a rosemary iced tea. Even our soursop drink has lemons in it. Our kitchen, we buy lemons by the case, so our kitchen always has lemons. Another item would be extra virgin olive oil, or as you hear it from watching some of the cooking channels, EVOO, extra virgin olive oil. All of our salad dressings, including the dressing that we use in our coleslaw, olive oil. A very important item in our kitchen. Another item would be coconut milk. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with coconut milk and how you use it. We use it in curries, we use it to make bread, we use it in a number of items in our kitchen as well. So on our shelf, you will always find coconut milk in the can, or when we can't get it in the can, in the can when we can't get it fresh. So coconut milk is another specialty. And then of course, we do a lot of our own in-house dressings, again, using fresh herbs and spices, but particularly for our pastas and our sandwiches, sun-dried tomatoes makes a huge difference in flavor. Sun-dried tomatoes. Garlic. Can't cook a Caribbean dish without garlic, whether it's peas and rice, curries, seasoning meat. Garlic is extremely important, a very important ingredient in our kitchen. And then I'm going to tell you about some of the items that we actually use. Of course, the blender is important, mixer, food processor, spice grinder. I don't have one here today, but that's extremely important as well. And a scale. We even weigh our Johnny cakes to make sure that they're all the same size and the same weight. We weigh our burgers, and this is one of the scales that we use. We have several of them. And then one of the very important things is a Cajun cooking pan. We have them in pots, we have them in pans, we serve certain foods on them, a must-have. And I think every Caribbean kitchen should have at least one. Okay, so what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to make one of the very special items that we use in pasta, on our sandwiches and so forth at Lady Sarah's. I'm going to make a quick basil pesto. And of course it's going to have garlic. And I'm just preparing 2 cloves of garlic. And as I said earlier, you know, garlic is precious to me. The only challenge is that sometimes here in the BVI, it's difficult to find good quality garlic. A lot of times the garlic that we get is cheap Chinese garlic. And sometimes you got to use 10 cloves to get the flavor of 2. So we're going to have to put some garlic in here. And then we need about a cup of good fresh basil, a bunch of good fresh basil, and some fresh parsley, right? About this much. I'm crazy about measuring, but when it comes to making these things, measurements somehow go out the window. So I'm going to just rinse these off. Going to rinse these off and get these in the bowl cleaned up. Take off the tough stems. Take off the brown leaves. So we've got our basil and our parsley there. Put that aside. And then we want about a cup of olive oil. So we've got a cup of olive oil here. I'm going to put this in the blender. Okay. And pestos normally call for toasted pine nuts, but because sometimes it's so difficult to find them here in Tortola, or sometimes they're just terribly expensive, we substitute our pine nuts with toasted walnuts. So I'm going to get in the blender about half a cup of toasted walnuts, and then we're going to get our basil and parsley in there. And we're going to blend this. So first we're going to just pulse it a bit so we get the nuts and the garlic blended. And then I'm going to so let's push that down. Okay, so we are now going to add a little salt and pepper in there. A little salt, a little black pepper. Now, typically we would add maybe some Parmesan cheese to our basil pesto. I mean, that's sort of traditional. However, to make this vegan, we're going to leave that out. So no cheese today. And so anybody can enjoy. I'm just going to give this a taste. Make sure it's well balanced. So what that needs is a little more salt and pepper. Okay, and that's done. Now you would want to know, how do I use basil pesto? Well, basil pesto is one of those must-have things you should have in your kitchen, and you're going to use it in pasta. You can make a simple pasta dish, just plain pasta. You can add capers and tuna, or you can add chicken and sun-dried tomatoes, or you can add some roasted vegetables and just the pesto, and voila, you have a perfectly healthy dish. What we're going to do is we're going to make a special something for you using basil pesto. Give me 1 second. So for a simple evening meal, when you get home, if you have your basil pesto in the refrigerator already, because you can make it in large portions, you can make a pint, you can make a quart, and save it in the refrigerator. So when you get home in the afternoons, rather than having to start from scratch, you will have your pesto in the fridge. Just cook up some pasta and just add some of your basil pesto directly into that. And because we wanted to make that sauce vegan, if you're cooking for your family, nobody's vegan, here's where you want to add your Parmesan cheese. So we're just going to add a touch of Parmesan cheese. I added some, did I say I added fresh spinach? Yes, I added fresh spinach. And this is actually the salad spinach. So if you were using the Malabar spinach, for instance, you'd have to sweat it down a little bit in the pot because it's not as pleasant to have when it's raw. So this is salad spinach. And I'm going to add just a little more of this pesto sauce. And to give this dish a kick, I'm going to add one of our other essentials. I'm just going to chop 2 pieces of sun-dried tomatoes to add to this dish. There. It also gives the dish some color. So it's not just a boring, bland green dish. So here we have some shells pasta with spinach and sun-dried tomatoes. And there you have it. A beautiful dish of shells pasta with basil pesto and fresh spinach. Simple. You can make that in 10 minutes as long as it takes the pasta to boil. And dinner is ready with a beautiful glass of San Pellegrino. So today we're going to talk about grits. Or cornmeal porridge or cream of wheat